And we're good to go. Would you like to make any kind of announcement to the kids right now?
Just that I hope they enjoy it and participate as much as they would like.
All right. Okay, so we are all set to go. Well, thank you very much for having us. Really appreciate you having me here today. And everybody, I'm going to spotlight my video because we are all set to go. So I hope everybody is doing good today. I am so excited to be here. We're going to have a lot of fun. Before we get going, just a few things. I have you all muted. That's just so you can hear it properly and everything, and there's no interruptions with all the stuff you will hear here. Here. All right, but that doesn't mean that you guys cannot be a part of the show, because you definitely can, and I want you to be. So if I go like this, okay, so if I go like that, you can shout out, okay? So if I'm asking you a question like this, you can shout out as loud as you're allowed, okay? And also, there is going to be, throughout the show, I'm going to be putting a poll up on the screen, which is a question and a list of answers that you get to choose from. So if you can, on your computer, click on the answer that you think is right. You're going to be making a guess, a scientific guess, which is also known as a hypothesis. You'll hear that word a lot. All right? So we're going to have a lot of fun doing this, guys. So just sit back, look at your screen, because I'm going to first pass you over to Science Teller Rick, and he is going to tell you a story.
Hi, I'm Ricky, and I'm a science teller. A science teller is part scientist, part story teller. That's right. When you mix them together, you get a science teller. And that's someone who uses really cool experiments to tell an amazing story. That's right. You guys are getting good at this. Today's story is called Dragons, Return of the Ice Sorceress. Let's get started. A long time ago, there was a kingdom. In this kingdom, there was a castle. In this castle, there were two kids. Their names were Henry and Beth. Henry and Beth, however, were not supposed to be in the castle. But one of their favorite things to do was to sneak into places where they shouldn't be. Suddenly, they heard voices. Someone was coming. They started to run.
Oh, you're in trouble.
They ran down the hall and wham! Crashed into someone. They looked up thinking that it might be the castle guard, but they were wrong. It wasn't the castle guard at all. It was the last person they wanted to run into. Freeze! What are you doing in my castle? You two are in big trouble. Now come with me.
No!
Before the king could grab them, Henry and Beth ran, pushing past the king, ran down another long hall, and ran outside.
Okay, guys, help them run. They need to run faster than that.
That was a close call. Henry and Beth started running back to the village. They were almost home when suddenly, look out!
Ah!
They dove to the ground just in time as something flew through the air right over their heads and disappeared into the forest. Wait a minute! In the story, Henry and Beth saw something flying above their heads. Would you like to see what it looked like? Right here, I have a cooler. Inside this cooler, I have... Whoa! Woo! Something cold. It's so cold, I have to wear these gloves in order to touch it. In this cooler, I have...
Dry ice!
Now, is dry ice hot or cold?
Cold!
It's cold! It's so cold, it's 109 degrees below zero. And that's why I have to wear these gloves in order to touch it. Everyone, stick out your hand.
What, everyone?
Close your eyes. Imagine you're holding an ice cube. What starts happening to that ice cube?
It's melting.
It's Melting, that's right. That means it's turning from a solid into a liquid. Okay, everyone, open your eyes. Does dry ice melt?
No.
Does it turn wet like an ice cube?
No.
That's why it's called dry ice. Now, when you heat up dry ice, it turns from a solid, not into a liquid, but into a gas. Now, what's it called when something turns from a solid into a gas? Evaporation?
No.
No, that's from a liquid to a gas. Is it called condensation? No, that's from a gas to a liquid. Is it called procrastination? No, I'll tell you what that means tomorrow. When a solid turns into a gas, it's called sublimation. Right here, I have one of my oldest pieces of equipment. It's called a film canister. I'm going to put a piece of dry ice in this film canister, and it will start to sublimate or turn from a solid into a gas. Even though we can't see it, matter is gas. A matter is anything that takes up space. Now, what takes up more space? A solid or a gas?
What do you think?
A gas. A gas will expand and take up much of space as it can. Now, when I put the dry ice in the film canister and put the lid on top, what do you think is going to happen? It's time to do our scientific guess, which is also called a hypothesis.
Whoa! Where did this come from? That was crazy. Okay, guys, I'm back. So this is the time I was talking about. I'm going to put the question on the screen, and I want you guys to make your guess. So if you have problems with your computer and you can't click on it, don't worry, think it in your head, because you'll still learn that way and it'll still be super fun. All right, so here you go. How long will it take to explode? So when he puts the dry ice in the canister and the lid on, how long will it then take to explode? About 10 seconds, about 30 seconds, or about 1 minute? Make your guess. Okay, now I'm going to do my little clock. Okay. All right, you guys, keep your guesses coming. That is totally awesome. All right, so I'm going to do a countdown. If you're done guessing, you guys count down with me. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Now slow motion. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, bam. Awesome. All right, guys, this is the results of our poll here. So interesting. Nobody thinks it will take more than a minute. 33% of you say it will take about 10 seconds, and 67% of you say about 30 seconds. All right, well, here's what we're going to do, guys, because don't worry if you're right or wrong, because that's how we learn, and it's a guess, a scientific guess, a hypothesis. So right now, we are going to go back to Science Teller Rick, and we are going to test our hypothesis.
Okay. All right. Now let's see what happens.
Ooh, I'm excited. Whoa.
Oh, look at that. It's sublimate.
That is so cool.
Wow. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Now I'm going to put the lid on top.
Okay, here we go, guys. This is it. Test your hypothesis.
Now. Oh my God! Wow! That was awesome!
That was so
Whoa! Whoa! Wow! That was amazing! When we put the lid on top, we trapped the gas inside. The gas kept expanding, trying to find space, which in turn built up pressure inside of the film canister, which made it pop up into the air. And that's what it looked like when Henry and Beth saw something flying over their heads.
awesome.
They didn't see what flew overhead, but Beth had an idea.
What?
Maybe that was the evil ice sorceress.
Evil
Levi saucers. Oh, Levi saucers! I got
But Henry laughed. That's just an old story people tell to scare their kids. She's not real.
Or is she? What do you guys think? She's real?
Now what would you do? A, would you run home? Or B, would you follow it into the forest?
What would you guys do at home? Shout it out. Would you run home or run into the forest? What would you do? Okay.
Come on, let's go see what it was.
I'm curious.
Henry grabbed Beth by the arm and together they ran towards the forest. Meanwhile, high atop the castle tower, someone was watching them.
Did you guys see the lights? Right up there.
It's those two pesky kids. They're heading into the forest. I'll stop them. The guard raced down the long hall,
Oh, you're gonna have to run faster than that. Yeah. Go.
jumped onto his horse,
Okay, I think we might need some help here. Can you help me make
and rode to the edge of the
my
forest.
pitch on your leg? Nice. Slow down.
Right there, far in the distance, running through the trees, he spotted Henry and Beth. The guard started to chase them. Henry and Beth started to run. They were fast, but the guard's horse was faster. Henry and Beth need our help. Put your hands up and be like the trees in the forest.
Hey, everyone at home, be a tree.
He got closer and closer. The hoofbeats got louder and louder. He rode alongside them. Just as he reached out,
Can you be a tree?
about to grab them, they dove off the path and disappeared from sight.
Go ahead. Shh, don't move a muscle.
He looked right. Then he looked left. The guard saw something. But it wasn't Henry and Beth. It wasn't a person at all. It was a mysterious white cloud of fog. He felt very cold. Something wasn't right. He turned and rode off in the other direction. It was filling the entire forest.
That's kind of spooky.
Henry and Beth peeked out from behind the old tree they were hiding behind. The guard was gone. Wait a minute! In the story, Henry and Beth saw something in the forest. It was a mysterious white cloud of fog. That's right. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that looked like. Do you remember what it's called when a solid turns into a gas?
Sublimation.
Sublimation. Right here, I have a graduated cylinder filled with water. I'm going to add dry ice to that water. What do you think's going to happen? It's time to make our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
Be careful when he says that word. Anyway, all right, here I am. The next question, everybody. Look up at your screens because it's all about the fog. What color will the fog be? Do you think it'll be gray, white, or blue? Ready? It's my clock. Now, if you're done voting, count down with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, bam. All right. Okay, let's see these answers, guys. All right, so nobody thinks it'll be blue. Okay. 20% of you guys say it will be gray, but 80% say it will be a white fog. All right, well, you never know. So we are going to go back to Science Teller Rick, and we are going to test your, I'm a little scared, hypothesis.
All right. It's time to test out our theory. Let's see what happens. When we put the dry ice into water, the water makes the dry ice heat up and sublimate even faster. That allows us to see all the gas, just like a fog or a cloud. That's right. We can actually, pour it in our hands. Look at that. Whoa. We can even pour it in our lab coats.
Don't be silly. Oh, it's gonna be so cool. Just don't pour it on me, okay? Oh, man.
I can even pour it on you.
Yeah. No.
And this is what it looked like when Henry and Beth saw the mysterious white fog.
That was awesome.
The guard was gone, but that's when they saw it. Right there, the fog. It was coming towards them.
Well, what are you gonna do? What should they do, guys?
What would you do? Would you A, stay in the foggy forest? Or would you B, warn the king?
What would you guys do? What do you think? Out and out.
Quickly, Henry and Beth ran back towards the castle to warn the king.
Good idea. Okay, help him run. Move your arms.
Henry and Beth ran fast as they could.
If you have room, you can stand up and run on the spot like me.
They saw the castle in the distance.
I see it. It's running in slow motion. Ready?
Finally, they made it out of the forest. But they were too late.
Everyone.
Right there, standing in front of the castle, they saw her. It was the evil ice sorceress. Suddenly, the trumpets blared. The castle gates blew open. And the knights marched out.
Yeah, get her.
But nobody could have known what was going to happen next. The evil ice sorceress stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. With a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released bubbles of fog that rained down from the sky.
That's kind of cool.
When the bubbles popped, They released ice cold fog that froze the night solid.
That's not cool.
Wait a minute! In the story, the evil ice sorceress stomps her feet. She claps her hands and she snaps her fingers, that's right. When she does, she makes bubbles of fog. We're gonna do an experiment to show you exactly what that looked like. Right here, I have a flask. In my flask is water. Now we're gonna add a chemical to this water. Soap!
That's important.
We're gonna add a piece of dry ice to the soapy filled water. What do you think's gonna happen? It's time for our scientific guess, also known as a hypothesis.
Every time. Okay, guys, it is our next question coming up. So look at your screens, guys, because question number 3 is all about the bubbles. How high up will the bubbles go, do you think? Do you think the bubbles in the little flask will go halfway up to the top? Or do you think it'll overflow and make a big, humongous mess? All right, place your votes. Boop, 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 boop. Boo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo. I like how you guys are thinking. I knew it. I had a feeling. All right, count down with me if you're done voting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, slow-mo, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bam, bam. All right, guys, let's see your results here. Look at your screens. Oh, this is so funny. Check it out. I love you guys. You're awesome. So 100% of you say it'll overflow and make a huge mess. Oh my goodness, that is so funny. All right, well, let's just see if you are right. So I'm going to go back to Science Stella Rick, and we are going to test your hypothesis.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. There's the soap. All right. Now it's time to add the dry ice. Here we go.
Okay.
Whoa! Oh my gosh! Look at that!
That is awesome.
Oh, you can see the fog inside of the bubbles.
That is so cool.
The dry ice supplemented. It turned from a solid into a gas. The gas is filling up the soap. And that's why we're getting so many bubbles. Lots and lots of bubbles. This is really cool. When the bubbles pop, you can see the fog inside of them escape. It's really cool. And this is what it looked like when the evil ice sorceress made bubbles of fog. But it wasn't the nights that she wanted. Right there, she found who she was looking for. Slowly, she walked towards the king.
Come on, King.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. And with a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released a giant bubble of fog. The bubble popped, releasing an ice-cold fog that froze the king solid.
That's not cool.
Then, ever so slowly, the evil ice sorceress turned around and looked out into the distance. With a flash of her icy blue eyes,
Henry, the other way.
she caught Henry and Beth watching her.
Run!
They started to run.
Oh, Henry,
They arrived at a sign with two locations, Fiery Mountains or Frozen Swamp.
which way should we go?
What would you do? Would you A, run to the Fiery Mountains, or would you B, head to the Frozen Swamp?
Where would you guys go? What do you think? Shout it out. Okay.
Henry and Beth reached the base of the Fiery Mountains. There it was said the dragons lived. A dragon was Henry and Beth's only hope to stop the evil ice sorceress.
Okay.
They climbed up, up, and up, the narrow rocky path winding their way higher and higher into the mountains. With every step they took, they felt the ground getting warmer beneath their feet. As they got closer, they saw it was the opening to a cave.
What would you do? Would you A, keep climbing, or B, go into the cave?
What would you guys do? Shout it out. All right, let's go. Go, 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 go. Come on, Henry.
With whatever courage they had left, Henry and Beth stepped inside of the cave. At once they heard a deafening roar. They looked up. They couldn't believe their eyes. They were standing face to face with a dragon. Two children in my mountain cave. What are you doing here?
Okay, everybody, Henry and Beth needs our help again, okay? On three, yell, the evil ice sorceress is back, okay? You ready?
Super loud.
1, 2, 3. The evil ice sorceress is back!
Roar! My fire should be able to melt her.
Everyone, put your arms down. Let's fly.
The dragon flew up in the air. Henry and Beth felt the powerful wind in their face and hair.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! In the story, Henry and Beth flew through the air with the dragon. That's right. While they were flying through the air, they felt how strong the wind was. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that was like.
Okay.
Now, what's all around us that we need to breathe?
What do you think?
Air. Now, is air a solid, a liquid, or a gas?
A gas.
That's right. Air is made out of tiny little particles, too small for us to see. But if we can't see it, how do we know it exists?
What do you think?
Because we can feel it. We can also see the effects that it has on other objects. Right here, I have a leaf blower. The leaf blower sucks air through this end and shoots it out at 140 miles an hour. Oh my find something else in the lab to use it on.
Cool.
Let's try the leaf blower with this toilet paper.
Yeah.
What do you think's gonna happen? It's time for us to make our scientific guess,
Don't say it.
also called a hypothesis.
Every time. Oh my goodness, he needs to learn. All right, the next question, guys. Everybody, look at the screens. What will happen to the toilet paper? Will it just fly in the air? Will it just fall to the ground? Or will it just unravel? All right, so will it unravel, fly, or fall to the ground? Boop, 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 boo-doo, 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 boo-doo. All right, I'll count down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, bam. Awesome, guys. All right, let's see. These are cool results. Check this out. So no one thinks it'll just fall to the ground, but 40% say it will fly and 60% of you say it will unravel. So here you go, guys. We're going to go back to Science Teller Rick, and we are going to test your hypothesis.
All right, now it's time to test out our theory. Fast-moving air has lots of energy. When the energy comes into contact with another object, like the toilet paper, it makes the toilet paper fly through the air. And that's what it looked like when Henry and Beth flew through the air with the dragon.
Nice. Oh, everyone listen to the fly.
Flying through the air, the dragon saw the entire kingdom below. The castle was completely frozen in ice. Right there stood the evil ice sorceress. She was watching. The dragon landed in front of the castle and put Henry and Beth down.
I'll be right back.
The dragon took a deep breath and released a blast of fire.
Not even fire can melt me.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. And with a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released bubbles of fog that rained down on Henry and Beth. Just when they thought all hope was lost, Henry and Beth heard a sound. The dragon spread its wings wide apart and covered Henry and Beth like a giant umbrella. The bubbles popped, releasing their ice-cold fog that froze the dragon solid. Then the evil ice sorceress rose up into the air and started flying towards them.
What would you do? Would you A, face the evil sorceress? Or would you B, find a place to hide?
What would you guys do? Hide? I think so. Yeah.
Henry and Beth started to run.
Good.
Henry and Beth saw an open window in the castle. They jumped inside. Down, down, down to the coal castle cellar. Everything in the cellar was completely frozen in ice, except for one thing. An old wooden barrel.
Get in! Get in!
They opened the barrel. It was filled with salt. As they climbed inside the barrel, some salt spilled out onto the ground and it started to melt the ice. Just then, someone kicked the door in.
Whoa!
I can see you come out of that barrel.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. The evil eye sorceress started to wave her hand.
But before the evil eye sorceress could flick her wrist, Henry and Beth had an idea. They reached their hands inside of the barrel, grabbed a handful of salt, and on 3,
Okay, everyone.
1, 2, 3, they threw it at her.
All at once, the salt began to work. The evil eye sorceress broke out in a cold sweat and she watched as the salt melted through her icy skin. With one final shriek, the evil eye sorceress exploded into millions of tiny water droplets that fell like rain.
No coming back.
And just like that, the evil eye sorceress was gone. This time, for good.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! In this story, Henry and Beth melted the evil eye sorceress with salt. She exploded into millions of ice droplets. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that looked like. Okay, everyone, do like this.
Everyone try.
Okay, do it again.
Okay.
We breathe out CO2 or carbon dioxide. That's the same thing that dry ice is made out of. Dry ice is just the solid form of carbon dioxide. Inside this cartridge is carbon dioxide gas. When we open up this end, carbon dioxide escapes very, very fast. I'm going to attach it to this tube. And what's inside of this tube? Nothing right now. We're going to put water inside of the tube. We're going to pull this lever and release the carbon dioxide gas. Now, what do you think is going to happen? It's time for our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
Somebody said it. Oh my goodness. All right. Okay, guys, our next question about the carbon dioxide here. How wet will I get? What? Me? I'm not going to get... Maybe it means science teller Rick. How wet will he get? Or you? Hopefully not me. Anyway, how wet will I get? Not at all, a little, or soaking wet. I love the answers so far, unless it's me. Boop, 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 boop. Ready? And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, slow-mo, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bam, bam! Guys, these are pretty funny. This is awesome. I knew it. Look, 100% of you say soaking wet. 100% say I or he will get soaking wet. Well, let's go back to Science Teller Rick and let's just see what happens, because I'm sure it's going to be cool. All right, let's test our heart power.
Okay, well, let's see what's going to happen. Now, let's count down from 10. Are you ready?
Ready.
Let's do it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, me too, dude.
Oh. Oops.
Huh.
And that's what it looked like when the evil ice sorceress exploded into thousands of little tiny droplets of water.
Henry and Beth got right to work.
Oh, that looks heavy.
They dragged the barrel outside the castle,
Yeah. What are you going to do now?
lifted it high over their heads, and dumped salt all over the dragon.
Good idea, because it's lots of work.
All they could do now was wait and wait. And the salt began to melt the ice. The dragon started to move. It flapped its giant wings and flew into the air. Flying over the kingdom, the dragon saw everything still covered in ice. It took a deep breath and released a blast of fire. As the ice melted and the kingdom thawed out, a huge cloud of fog formed over the land.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! At the end of the story, the dragon took a deep breath and let out a blast of
Fire!
fire. That's right. The fire melted all the ice and left a big cloud of fog. This is an experiment to show you what that looked like. Right here, I have a bucket filled with hot water. Right here, I have dry ice. What do you think is going to happen when I put the dry ice inside of the bucket of hot water? It's time to make our scientific guess,
Okay, don't.
also called a I almost said the word hypothesis. Oh!
Oh man, so close. All right, you guys, here we go. It is that time again. It is time to make your scientific guess. So, how much fog do you think there will be? Do you think there'll be a little? Do you think there'll be a lot? Or do you think there'll be way too much? What do you guys think? I have a feeling what you guys are going to guess. I already know it. I'm getting to know you guys. All right. I'm going to do my countdown. Everyone join in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, slow-mo, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bam, bam. Ha, you guys are so funny. I love it. Check this out. 100% of you said way too much. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, guys, we are going to go back. Hold on, I'm going to stop that share. Okay, and we're going to go back to Science Teller Rick, and let's test our hypothesis. I know it's going to be awesome.
Wow! Okay, are you guys ready?
Yes!
I need your help counting down.
Okay.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Awesome!
Whoa!
Oh, that is so cool, you guys.
The ice is sublimating very fast because it's in hot water.
Whoa!
This is awesome! Whoa, 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 whoa.
Whoa!
This is super cool! It's sublimating at such a high rate. And that's exactly what it looked like when the kingdom started to thaw out again.
The dragon waved goodbye to Henry and Beth and headed back to her home in the mountains. Everything returned to normal.
Suddenly, someone called for Henry and Beth. It was the king. Then they remembered that they were in trouble for sneaking around the castle. The king called for him again. This time, there was nowhere to hide.
Henry, Beth, I've been looking everywhere for you. Because of what you did, our kingdom is safe. All hail Henry and Beth.
Woo!
And your dragon friend too. And from now on, you are allowed to sneak around the castle whenever you'd like.
Awesome. All's well that ends well. I love a happy ending, don't you guys?
And that concludes Dragons, Return of the Ice Sorceress. Did you have a good time?
I did. Did you? I hope you did. All right, guys, that is the end of our story part of the show. So as you could see throughout, there's more to come, don't worry. As you could see throughout the experiments that Science Teller Rick was doing, he was working with dry ice. So I'm going to quiz you a little bit, ask you some questions, just like I did with the polls before, to see how much you remember about the dry ice. And don't worry if you get it wrong. Again, it's just a guess. And if you know, great. If you don't, this is how you learn. So I'm going to put the first question up. What is dry ice? Is it the solid form of carbon monoxide? Is it the solid form of carbon dioxide or the solid form of carbon trioxide? All right, I'm just going to do my countdown from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. If you're still voting, keep going, don't worry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, bam. All right, guys, here we go. Here's our results. I'm putting them on the screen right now. So interesting. 20% of you say carbon monoxide. 20% of you say dry ice is the solid form of carbon trioxide, but 60% of you say solid form of carbon dioxide, and those 60% were right. Dry ice is the solid form of carbon dioxide, which is also the air we breathe out, right? We breathe in oxygen, and our body takes what it needs, and then we breathe out what our body doesn't need, and that's carbon dioxide. And dry ice is just a solid form of carbon dioxide, which is kind of cool, huh? All right, so the next question is about the temperature of dry ice. How cold is dry ice? Do you guys remember what Science Teller Rick said? Is it 0 degrees, which is really cold, like winter cold? Is it minus 32 degrees, which is 32 degrees below 0? That's really cold. Or is it minus 109 degrees, which is 109 degrees below 0, which is so cold? All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, bam. All right, guys, I am putting the answer up here. All right, this is what you guys thought. Nobody says minus 32. 40% of you say 0. 60% of you say minus 109 degrees. You guys, if you said minus 109 degrees, you got the right answer. So that's 60% were right. So dry ice is 109 degrees below 0. That is so cold, you guys. And that's why Science Teller Rick had to wear those gloves on his hands. So he had to wear protective covering on his hands, because if you touch dry ice, it's so cold it actually burns your hand. Isn't that crazy? That something is so cold that it actually burns your hand. So if you ever, I've touched it, it really is cold. It feels really bad. So if you're ever around dry ice, you have to be prepared because it is that cold. All right, the last question of our little quiz. Which takes up the most space? Is it a solid, a liquid, or a gas? All right, so what takes up the most space? A solid, a liquid, or a gas? All right, I'm gonna do my countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ba-dum, bum. right. I love doing that. Okay, here's our results here. Okay, so nobody says a liquid. 20% of you say a solid. 80% of you say a gas. If you said a gas, if you were one of that 80%, you got it right. Gas takes up the most space. That's kind of a tricky one, isn't it? Because you might say, well, it depends how big the solid is. Well, the difference is gas can expand and take up as much space as it can. It can fill every single crevice, every single crack, every space it can, whether it's in a little film canister like it was in the experiment, or whether it just escapes into the room. It can fill up as much space as it can. It can expand. So that's why. So guys, you did so great. We've been talking a lot about dry ice and carbon dioxide. So I have one more bonus experiment for you guys. Some of you who came on early saw my experiment cam. Well, I am going to click over and spotlight my experiment cam right now. And so then you can see this is an experiment that you guys could do at home. Okay, let me see, get a bit more light here. Yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, so this is an experiment that you guys can do at home, all right? But before you do any experiment, whether it's at home or anywhere at all, please have a grown-up with you whenever you do a science experiment, okay? So here's what I have. I have like a little Tupperware bowl here, and I'm gonna put inside the bowl ice. Now this is not dry ice, this is regular ice you have from your freezer, so that's why it's easy to do at home. So if you have ice in your freezer, you can do this. All right. So filled it with ice. Now I'm going to put water in there. See, I say water because I'm from the UK. Remember, some of us talked about that before. So that's why I say water, you say water. All right. So just fill it up with water until like the ice is not quite to the, it's not quite to the top of the ice, but about around that. Now I have here a piece of string. All right. This is just like a hard, like really tough kitchen twine. All right, and I'm going to get it nice and wet in here. Then I'm going to spread it, all the string, across the ice. So I'm touching as many of the ice cubes as I can. All right, okay. Now, the final, most important ingredient here, salt. Remember that from the story? Salt, which made the ice sorceress go into lots of droplets. Okay, I'm going to pour the salt on top of the string, on top of the ice cubes in the water here. I'm trying to cover as much of the string that I have here. All right, now I'm going to spotlight my other camera here to come back and talk to you while we wait a little bit. All right, so you should wait like about a minute, maybe just a bit less. Okay, so during that time, you're going to guess, make your final guess here of the show, what you think is going to happen with this experiment. So look at your screens. What will happen to the ice cubes? It says ice cube, but we mean ice cubes. Will they sink to the bottom? Will the ice cubes stick to the string? Or will they snap the string? All right, ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, bam. All right, here we go. Let's see. Look at your results here. Nobody says the ice will sink to the bottom. You guys are pretty smart. Now, 20% say it will snap the string, and 80% say it will stick to the string. All right, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the experiment cam and see what's happening over there. All right, let's see. Well, you were right. The ice did not sink to the bottom. But let's see what's happening. I'm going to pick up the string and see. Guys, check it out. Awesome. Okay, you know what's so funny? It only stuck to some of the ice. And I'll tell you why I think that happened. But it did not snap the string. It stuck to the string. And that's what should have happened. Look at that. The ice is totally stuck to the string. Some of it's coming off, but it's still sticking. All right, I'll tell you the science behind this. So, you know how when it's really super cold in the winter and trucks go by and pour salt onto the roads to melt the ice, or your moms or dads or you will go and put salt on the driveway so you don't slip? Well, that's because salt lowers the freezing point of the ice. So it lowers the temperature there, so it will melt the ice. So when I pour the salt over the ice cube here, it melts it just a little bit, because then it's still so cold in there that with the water that the ice the ice refreezes over the string. Okay, so that's how it does that. Now, the reason why I think it wasn't sticking properly and it now came off was because I think I put a bit too much water in. I could tell that when I put the water in, I was like, it can't be covering the ice so much that it gets too wet. It needs to be sticking to the cold ice with the water just helping it. So that's why I think that happened. But that's something you guys can try at home. I'm going to go back to my other video here. So you guys, that's something you can do at home. But again, it's called an experiment, right? Because we experiment, we try things. That's the meaning of the word. So, like, for example, it didn't all stick to the ice because I put too much water in. Try less water. When I first tried this, I used wool, yarn that you knit with. Didn't work at all. So, really coarse twine string works better. But if you try one and it doesn't work, try a different kind of string, right? So many different things. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you on gallery view so I can see everybody here. And I'm going to ask a question. And if you want to answer it, put up your hand and I'll spotlight your video and you can take your sound off and answer it. Who has a favorite part of the show that they saw today? A favorite part of the story? All right, hold on. I'm going to ask to unmute you. If you see your picture, you know it's you. What was your favorite part of the story, dude? The guy I was talking to before.
The hypothesis part where it's like the storm comes.
I know. You know what? That's one of my favorite parts too. I think it's kind of funny. I love it. Thank you so much for that. All right. Who else has a favorite part of the story? Okay. I have you spotlighted, Maria.
Well, the part where all the men try to come out and try to destroy the ice witch.
Oh, the knights when they're like this. Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I love it. I love all the graphics of that. That's cool. Who has a favorite experiment? Oh, here you go. Wait. I see a hand. I'm spotlighting a hand.
My favorite experiment was probably the one where the gas exploded everywhere.
Oh yeah, what, with the water? Yeah, that was really cool. It's very clever, isn't it? I think science is super fun. That's definitely something you can, there's so many experiments that you can do at home. Maybe not that one, but you can. But science is super fun to do at home. Anybody else have something to say? Wait, did you have your hand up? Yes, I see a hand here. Hold on. Hello.
Hi. My favorite part was when he sprayed the other man.
Yeah, and he looked soaking wet. I love that part too, and I love it when then Science Teller it goes, oops, like this. That always makes me laugh. Cool. Well, thank you for saying that. All right. Is there anybody who did not speak who would like to speak? So there's not that many of you. I think I can go to everyone. No? All right. You guys were a really awesome audience. Thank you so much. It was super fun. When I could, I was looking at your faces and it was really cool. And thank you for having me here today and for coming on and watching. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for the thumbs up. I'm glad you had fun too. And I hope to see you again maybe in person one day. But anyway, over to Miss Pam.
All right, guys, I'm so glad that you were able to come on and join with Miss Claire, and I hope you enjoyed it. I did upload some of their activities that go along with this onto our website. So if you can get your moms or dads to help you go over to the website and download some of those activities that go along with this, then you can do those. And we have some other things on the schedule for today, so check those out too.
Download that.
Well, Miss Pam, thank you so much for having Science Tellers. Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming.
No problem. All right, bye guys. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, take care. Mwah. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.